Good day and welcome to another video. And as always, thank you so much for tuning in. Now, this is going to be an addendum. You remember in the last video we did in this series entitled How the Black Church is a Factory of Broken Children. And in this series, I did 1 and 2. 1 and 2 are going to be like the main parts, then it's going to kind of go into these other areas that's all related. So this one here is going to be an addendum. In the last video, I mentioned that I was going to have an addendum, but since then there was other things that kept popping up, and I was like, okay, I need to make an addendum just for this, before we actually get to the official 3. So all of these videos in this series are very important. You need to watch all of them. The reason why I'm calling these addendums is because they're just little subtopics that I'm emphasizing that's important, and they do deserve their own separate video. So that's why I'm calling these addendums. Okay, so that you know. So in this addendum, what we're talking about, what I want to emphasize is this question that I know many of us have had for a very long time, and it's just simply, why is it so many women in the church? Why does it always seem like there's always mostly women in the church? And of course, you see this trend, it's very obvious in the black church, but you also see it in other churches as well. But it's always this proclivity that the church has where it attracts mostly women, right? And we actually talked about this in the last video, but I just feel like it's so important. I need to just parse it out and make a separate video because I want to make sure you get this and understand what I'm saying. Now, in that video, I mentioned, I used this analogy, or I basically said that the church is a system, all right? The church itself, regardless of what church you're part of, it relies on a system that was established all the way back during the days of ancient Greece and ancient Rome, okay? So I don't care what church, I don't care if you say, well, it's a non-denominational church. It doesn't matter. If you are using the manual that's referred to as the Bible, then you are by default connected to that system. Now, you remember when I was saying I think it was the last one I mentioned, the system is designed to do exactly what it's designed to do. And then I said, for example, if I one day said, hey, you know what? I want to buy the Hershey's Candy Company. And so I purchased the Hershey's Candy Company. And then I'm like, okay, I'm good. Go to bed, wake up the next day, and then I go to one of the assembly lines and I'm like, what the heck happened here? I bought this company because I want y'all to start making cars. And so I said, you know what? I'm gonna fire you. And they're like, well, wait a minute. The system is designed for us to make candy bars. That's it. And I'm like, I don't want to hear that. We're going to fire everybody and I'm going to bring in all these other new people and they'll get it. Right. So I bring in some other people and then give it a week later. I come back, check it again. Guess what? There's candy bars at the other end of the assembly line. And then once again, I'm getting mad. What the heck? And what did they say? Well, again, the system is designed for us to make candy bars. Well, it's the same thing when it comes to the church. It doesn't matter if you're dealing with a black church. It doesn't matter if you're dealing with a white church. It doesn't matter. The system is designed to produce exactly what it was designed to do, period. So in order for us to understand why the church is what it is today, we have to take an honest look backwards. We have to go to the root. Because remember, a tree will never abandon its roots, okay? And like I just said in this analogy, the system, if you design a system to produce something, it's going to always produce the original intent. You can't escape it. And so we trick ourselves in this modern time thinking that, okay, well, I'm going to go to this church here as non-denominational. Well, I'm going to go to this church here because they're black. I'm going to go to this church, they're heavily on praise and worship. It doesn't matter. You are still riding on the system. All right. So now what we did is that we went back into the days of ancient Greece and Rome, and we laid the foundation. Why ancient Greece and Rome is quite simple, is because what we call today the Bible was actually established with those cultures. Those cultures had a big part in putting together this Bible. Now, the Bible has other influences throughout Mesopotamia during, the ancient, during those ancient times, but it was the Greeks and it was also the Romans who spearheaded this whole thing of putting together this thing we call the Bible that all churches follow. Doesn't matter if it's a Catholic church, whatever, right? And so when we start looking at the cultures in the last video, I'm kind of doing a recap. So in the last video we talked about, I wanted you to understand that we're not just making guesses here. So we went through a whole list of different things within the church that we see today, different practices that actually stem from ancient Greek and Roman culture. Everything from the oratory, the preacher, this whole concept that there's this one person that's sitting on the stage and he's giving this whole presentation. That comes from Greek culture. Everything, to the choir, that comes from Greek culture. In earlier series, we talked about even stained glass. A lot of churches don't have that these days, but stained glass. And then I said also like churches that do all the, during praise and worship, they have all these colored lights and all that stuff. Well, that also stems from, that's now getting into more Roman culture, because some of that had something to do with that. Let me see what else. The way the seats are arranged, kind of like a Colosseum sort of thing that they had. Yeah, that all the stage, how the main speaker is above the people. Same thing. A lot of these things that are still in practice today in churches, they got that from the culture that helped put together what you call today the Bible. So now in the last one, we also talked about Greek culture. We start diving in a little bit deeper in Greek culture and how Greek culture, it was very homoerotic, stemming from, men that had, positions of great influence, and then you get into, politics, the politicians, in the military. We talked about that. Then we also looked at the mythos, the mythology of Greek, and we were mainly focusing on Greece, but Rome can also be thrown into this as well. And how you'll see this homoeroticism, baked into the culture. What do we say? We some of the example. I talked about the military and all that. So you want to go back and look at all of that. So it's not a reach at all to think that, okay, you got all of this going on in Greek culture. You're going to have some of that reflected in their texts and their work, because what we're trained to believe within the church is that somehow that Greeks, when they put together the Bible, because again, Septuagint is the oldest Bible that we have. It is not the Ethiopian Bible. The Ethiopian Bible is the oldest, most complete Bible. Okay. What the Ethiopians did is they took from what they got from the Septuagint, which was written in Greek, and it was written in Egypt, right? So when you look at the Bible, you'll see influences of Egypt and also Greece within the Bible. What the Ethiopians did is that they added more books to the Bible. And this is one of the big mistakes that a lot of our people make, is that they just assume that the Ethiopian Bible is the oldest Bible. It is not. It's all you got to do is takes 2 minutes. You can look it up on Google. You'll see that the Septuagint is by far the oldest Bible, and the Ethiopian Bible came much later. So anyway, so getting to these influences. So we traced all these different influences of Greece and Rome into Christianity and how we see it being practiced today. And then when it comes to the homosexuality stuff, there was always the standard where you had the older men who always would take on or take in a younger man. And it was their way of mentorship. And part of their mentorship was, of course, teaching them, all the things that the older men learned in life. And then it would also came bundled with that was homosexuality. In fact, we talked about the word symposium and where that comes from. Symposium was basically think of a convention, during ancient Greece, when all the leaders, male leaders, they would come together and they were just trading information. And then one of the main focuses or the main events of this thing they called the symposium was these massive orgies where you had the older men and the younger men getting it on. So think about that next time when someone says, hey, listen, let's go to the symposium. That's where it comes from. So even the English language, or I would say even Western civilization for the most part, most of it got its influence from ancient Greece and Rome. Okay. So all of that being said, when you now we're getting to the main topic of this video. Why is it that we have so many women in the church? Well, to do that again, we got to go back to where we just left, ancient Greece and Rome. When you look at ancient Greece, you will see that in their temples, massive edifices, right? Got all these different statues. The Greeks, they would oftentimes, they worship not just male figures, but also females. Females were seen, and we're going to go through a list here, were seen as a conduit to the divine. All right. And so while women were limited in what they could do in society in ancient Greece and ancient Roman society, they were limited to, homemaking, taking care of the home, raising the kids, cooking the food, that kind of thing. Right. And, but it was one place within Greek society. And when I say Greek, just include Rome in that as well. I just want to kind of keep you in Greece for now. Okay. But Rome is not that far behind. But within Greek society, women were given a lot of autonomy within the temples. All right. And so for that, what we're going to do is I actually pulled it up on ChatGPT. And I do this because I want to make it very easy for you to look this stuff up on your own. And it will just tell you. You can look this stuff up on your own. So let me go ahead and pull this up and we'll go through this together. Okay. All right. Here we go. All right. So here is a whole list here. Let's go through this. All right. So women were more prominent in the temples of ancient Greece and Rome for several cultural religious and societal reasons tied to their role in those societies. And then number one, it says religious roles assigned to women. Women were often seen as intermediaries between the divine and the human world due to their perceived connection to fertility, birth, and nurturing. These qualities made them ideal candidates for serving goddesses associated with life, fertility, and the household, such as Demeter, Hera, and Vesta. Specific roles such as priestesses or attendants were reversed for women in temples dedicated to goddesses. For example, Vestals in Rome. The Vestal virgins were women who maintained the sacred fire of Vesta, the goddess of hearth and home. Their chastity symbolized purity, and service was critical to the state's religious practices. The next point is priestesses of Demeter in Greece. Women were key participants in the Eleusinian mysteries, a significant religious rite connected to Demeter and Persephone. Hope I said that right. Number two, gender division of religious functions. In many religious contexts, women were taught to be especially suited for certain rituals due to their association with purity, domesticity, and the cycles of nature. Example, menstruation aligning with lunar cycles. This made them integral to fertility cults and agricultural rites. Next point, men were typically involved in civic and martial aspects of religion, such as sacrifices or military festivals, which aligned with their societal roles. Number three, goddess worship. Many Greek and Roman temples were dedicated to goddesses. Example, Athena, Artemis, Venus. And these cults naturally elevated the status of women as primary worshipers and ritual leaders. The feminine nature of these deities encouraged the participation of women in temple activities. Number four, societal constraints and opportunities. Women's roles in public life were often limited in ancient Greece and Rome, but temples offered a socially acceptable space for women to gather, participate in important rituals, and exert influence. Next point, serving in a temple could grant women a respected position in society as priestesses, often wielded considerable authority in religious and sometimes even political matters. And then number 5, ritual purity and chastity. In certain cults, women were chosen for their perceived ability to embody ritual purity, such as virginity, example, Vestal virgins, or their role as mothers and caretakers. These qualities were symbolically important in maintaining the sanctity of religious practices. So as you can see here, so this Greek culture, Greek and Roman, right? They highly valued the role and the importance of women within the temples. So I just pointed out earlier, before we got to this point, how, these temples, they were known to have a lot of women. That was just normal. So earlier I was pointing out how in these, what's the point I was trying to make here? Basically, you will find this also being practiced today. What we were going over, and I just remembered, we traced all of these Greek and Roman influences within church practices today. So in this video, as you can see, we are now tracing the overabundance of women's presence in the temple. We're seeing where that comes from. Well, it comes from ancient Greece, right? That's where it comes from. Again, the system is designed to do exactly what it's designed to do. And then we talked about, I think in the first one, we were also talking about why is it that we have so many homosexuals, within the church, particularly in the black church. Well, again, that ties into an ancient Greek culture. Again, there was a proclivity that they had to, that men, if you wanted to move up in society, you had to have it was beneficial for you to have a homoerotic relationship with younger men. Well, fast forward to today, you see the same thing practiced in the church today, right? So there you go. So this is in a nutshell, this is why you see what you see in the church today. This is why you see an overabundance of women in the church. Now, personally, again, as I've said many times before, I personally don't care. Like I did a video. I said, if you're going to call when we say it's the black church, I think it should be categorized as a women's organization, because you have mostly women who are running it. Doesn't matter who's on the pulpit, because whoever's on the pulpit, their strings are being pulled by the massive amount of women that are in the congregation. Again, if that's how you want to run your organization, that's your choice. But let's not pretend that this organization is designed for straight men that are full of good character. It is not. It's never designed for that. Again, if you want to understand how the system works, you got to look at the blueprint. And that's what we're doing right now. So this is also why. So we can't be surprised when we look at churches today, and particularly when we're talking about the black church, why we see so many pastors and leaders within the church, black church, that are very committed and dedicated to Greek life. If you think you think this is just a coincidence, the tree never abandoned its roots. Okay. So I came across a video here of an individual who was giving their testimony, and I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 5 places in the video. And this young lady, she's talking about her experience getting into Greek life, and then she's going to bridge it into how it impacted her church life. Very interesting stuff, but it's not surprising to me, and it's not the first time I've heard things like this. But I want you to hear it. I want you to listen to it, because I think this kind of underscores everything I just said. All right. The black church is nothing more than an extension of ancient Greece. All right. So with that, let's go ahead and pull this video up. And I think I already have it keyed up to the first one. Yep. Okay. And so just to let you know, this is on the channel Lala Jenkins. So I just want to make sure she gets credit for that. And let me go ahead and bring this video up on the screen and let's take a listen here. Okay, I'll be taking some pauses and stuff here in the meantime too. All right, here we go.
And some of them just didn't like me. I don't know what I did to piss them people off, but they did not like me. So another line went through without me. By this time, I'm about to graduate. So my first lady at the time was a Zeta. When I say connected all the way around with them, my best friend's mom, a whole bunch of like people around me. It was like how many? About 5, 6, probably like 7 Zetas that went to my church. My church was like Greek. Yeah. Just wait. My church is like Greek. So it's Deltas. We had SU Bros. It was everybody in the church. My pastor was the Alpha. So Pastor Alpha, First Lady is a Zeta, and everybody else is basically Greek. And if you wasn't Greek, you was pursuing trying to be Greek, I guess. But I didn't think about it like that until now. I had to end up trying for a grad chapter because it was too close for me graduating. They're like, you know what? We want Morgan here. Because I had already cultivated relationships with them.
I think that was on that first clip, but there's a couple of things I wanted to point out. Which she said, number one, she was saying how it just seemed like they just didn't like me, and this is a very common thing that I hear oftentimes amongst sorors, is that that some won't. The only ones that will be honest and say it are the ones that leave, that denounce it, but they will tell you that in a lot of cases there's a lot of cattiness, there's a lot of pettiness, there's a lot of jealousy within these ranks. It came out not too long ago, and this is now that the election season is over. Kamala Harris, who is an AKA, well, I think it was like 90% of her staff left. Because there was a turnover was ridiculous and then you had one lady, Simone Sanders, who came right out and said, listen, after working for her, I don't think I can work for any other woman. So this is a common thread that happens all the time, within these ranks. And but they're very dedicated to the system, even if it means railroading their own people. So anyway, so that was the first thing. And then the second thing, of course, what she just mentioned is that most of her church, they're all in. She said it was basically a Greek church. I didn't need to say it. She said it herself. All right, so let's move on to the next one. This is at timestamp 3355. So let's go to there, 3355. And almost there, y'all. Just want to make sure I get it there. All right, I'll just start right there.
It was like a circle. I'm trying to bring back to me. It was a circle. And I'm like, this is weird. But I didn't think nothing of it. What I didn't understand, if we are an organization that stands on Christian principles, what in it, aside from the works, represented Christianity? What represented Christianity? Because being in that basement and being antagonized by people did not represent Christianity. Being in the basement and being belittled did not represent Christianity. Nothing at all. That did not, and I know it's like this, what they always say, the breaking down to build back up. That's not how my father works. But that time, just being so young and green, like you didn't, how about at that time not knowing God like I thought I knew him, right? And so going through that process was like, looking back, hindsight, I'm like, this was not, it was, the unveiling was crazy. Because here's the thing, I joined June.
Okay, yeah, there was that. So she mentioned being in the basement. She's going to talk more about that, where these rituals were taking place here. So the next one, let's go to 3520. Let's go to that one, 3520. All right. Did I just actually, that was what I just played here. That 3355. Hold on, let me see. 3355. Okay, 3520. Okay, I think we played both of those. 3520. Let me make sure. Hold on, y'all. Sorry about this. Let me see what she's saying here.
Part where we did our induction ceremony was the same place.
Oh, yeah. Okay. No, I didn't do that. Okay, 3520. All right. Almost. Okay, here we go. Thank you for your patience. All right, take a listen to what she's saying here.
With signing the covenant with the enemy. And here's the part where we did our induction ceremony was the same place that my pastor preached.
Mm.
So we went to the church, nothing in particular, right? We just like, oh, we're at the church. And we were kneeling on the same altar that you preached, did the whole induction thing. So the kneeling, the lighting of the candle, being blindfolded, the repeating of the words, all at the altar where you preach God's word. And I think that's the part that stuck with me the most.
Let me stop it there. So the altar of the church was literally the same altar that's used to practice these practices. I want you to understand, these aren't practices that they came up on their own, y'all. These are practices that trace all the way back to Minerva worship, to ancient other gods and goddesses that they worship. We've gone through each and every step that they go through in these rituals. These are Greek mythology based religious rituals that they do, and they're still doing it. They're doing it in the church. They're doing it in the black church. So again, the black church is an extension of ancient Greece. Are you with me? Are you paying attention? So she's confirming this. Let me see what else she had on this one.
I finally, when the veil was removed from my eyes to begin to see how demonic it truly was that right there. Because here I am at that, like a babe in Christ, leaning into you because you're shepherding over me. And I remember them saying like, hey, don't take too many pictures because we don't want them to know that we're inside of the church. Because at that time we had went downstairs to the basement. Right. And so that always stuck with me. You about to say something?
No, it was tripping me out because they said don't take too many pictures, because why do they want nobody to know y'all was in the church?
Mm-mm.
Right. That's crazy. And so when I finally became a Zeta, I actually ended up moving across the country.
Well. Don't take any pictures because we don't want people to know we're in the church. Don't take any pictures because we don't want people to know that this is actually an extension of ancient Greece. And it's so sad to me to see so many of our people who have, it's bad enough what slavery did to us, ripping us from our actual, our cultural identities and stuff like that. And, and so to see us to go this hard for an ancient culture that had nothing at all to do with us, it's really a sad thing to watch and to witness. But let's go on here. Now, next time, I got two more here. This is 4451. 4451, almost there. Okay, here we go. Let's see what she's saying here.
I reached out to my mentor at the time. She just stopped talking to me altogether.
Okay, so she's talking about when she denounced. And so when she denounced, I want you to pay attention to what happened to her. So she just mentioned that she reached out to her mentor, and then the mentor immediately stopped talking to her.
And
you said she stopped talking to you altogether?
Mm-hmm. And then I had a conversation with my first lady and my pastor. Mind you, in this process, the Lord just had me deep in his word. So I remember vividly during the conversation with my pastor, my first lady, he was shooting scripture to combat what it was that they were saying out of their mouths. Kind of like when Jesus was in the wilderness and the enemy was tempting him. Jesus was shooting back scripture. That's how it was coming to me while they was talking. He was like, police officers and stuff, they take oaths all the time. And I'm like, that's not the same. And I was explaining to him what I had found out about it being demonic and how it wasn't of the Lord. And the conversation didn't necessarily go over well. I forgot this very vital part. During that time, I was also a minister in training at my church. And my pastor had just asked me to come back so I can be ordained as a minister under their church. And I remember the Lord saying to me, when I denounced my letters, to stay connected to the church. And I said, well, God, why would I stay connected to the church if it's not of you? That don't even make sense. Like, I want to wash my hands of everything. And he said, I want you to take.
Let me move on here. 47. And you see the video here, because if you want to watch this entire video, you're like, don't cut it off there. You can come and look at it. Look at, again, it's on the Lala Jenkins channel. You can come and look at the whole thing there. I'm just doing this for our sake here. 4734. All right. And this is the last clip here.
Just what the symbol was, like the god, the cat, was it Bastet? Just all of them. I went about all of the organizations and just educating the people on how you need to know these things, that this is what you're yoked up to. This is what you're in. And when I say after that, persecution came from all different directions. I went viral. People who were at my undergrad institution were just slandering me, calling me all out my name. After I did that, my pastor called me and kind of cussed me out. And he went off on me. It was bad. And I remember very vividly, the Lord said, don't say nothing. I said, what? This man going in on me. He don't want me to say nothing. Like, he said, don't say nothing. I just listened to him yell at me. And I'm like, oh. But I remember being at my friend's house at the time, and the Lord took me to
I think that was it for that. So you hear the reaction. People were throwing her under the bus because she denounced. She didn't come out and say that she committed a crime. She didn't come out and say, you know what, I had an affair with the pastor, or I messed around with somebody, underage in here, or, I parked in pastor's parking lot or something like the parking spot. She didn't say any of that. She denounced an organization that's dedicated to ancient Greece. And because she denounced it and said, I don't want to have anything to do with it, then they want to excommunicate her. She goes on to say that this program that she was part of, or whatever it was, that, she was in training to be a minister in the church, they pulled her out of it. They said, we're done with you. So in essence, this young lady was thrown out of the ministry simply because she would not bow the knee anymore to ancient Greek culture. So you cannot tell me that somehow the Black church has distanced itself and created this unique kind of space that is not connected at all to these ancient cultures, because it is. And we're focused on the Black church, but it's also these other churches that are out here as well. All right. And so I got one more clip here. Now, this is another young lady who came out and said that, hey, listen, I'm going to vote for Trump. And, if you've been following us on our other channel, we've been pointing out how, people have been making all kinds of threats and stuff and saying and word curses on people. I'm talking about Black folks. If you vote for Trump, this is what's going to happen. If you do this, then, you got one person out here, Luke Campbell. He's out here saying that he's hoping that Black people who voted for Trump get lynched. Yeah, this is Black people saying this stuff now. It's like they have so bought into this thing. It's like they've taken an oath. It's just like back in ancient Rome again, or ancient Greece. These people who were committed to the temple, they were committed to death through their part. That's how committed they were. And we're seeing the same level of commitment today amongst a lot of these Black people. This was a backhand slap to Black Greek culture. This whole election that we just had, it was a complete shutdown. Now, Greek culture, it still runs the, our country, Rome and all of that. They still pulling a lot from Greek and Roman culture, but they ain't going to have a Black person. They're not going to put a Black face on that. And so all this you're seeing right now is them getting pissed off at the reality of that. Well, anyway, this last young lady here, she went public and said that, hey, listen, I'm going to vote for Trump. Well, her sorors didn't like that. And so check out what happened. And she's going to share a little bit about what they told her. Look at that. They wish her life to end. We're going to listen to some of what she has to say here. It's like an 8-minute clip. I'm not playing all of it, but you'll get enough of it in the clip that we're going to play.
Specifically right now to my quote unquote sorors. The fact that there were hundreds of sorors in my comments degrading me like you know me and you don't. Questioning my Blackness when I'm Black as hell and came from a Black mama. questioning my education when I went to a HBCU, graduated magna cum laude with a 3.6 GPA from an institution that was founded by an honorary member of our illustrious sorority, a member that founded it with $1.50, 5 little girls and a dream, no handouts. Yeah, that institution. Questioning my membership when I've been a member for almost 7 years. I've been a member since March 31st, 2018. Y'all calling me perps. Y'all saying I'm this. Y'all saying I'm that. And these are all sorors. When I thought that sisterhood is supposed to be at our core, we're supposed to lead with love and compassion and courtesy. That's what we're supposed to be leading with. But y'all really showed y'all behinds in my comments. And y'all still showing y'all behinds in my comments till this day. But nothing beats y'all wishing on me, hoping that y'all can bully me, cyber bully me to the point to where I may feel like I want to denounce my letters, my DST. Simply because I had a difference in opinion and I said who I voted for. Now, granted, yes, I did have it in my letters, but I figured, well, there were sorors that were supporting Kamala Harris in their letters. I read the email, I read the communication, and because it's internal, I can't post it and really explain exactly what was said in it. But I never endorsed anyone, and I never encouraged anybody to vote for Trump. I specifically said that I voted for him. I gave my reasons why I didn't vote for Kamala, and I said vote in the best interest of you and your people. And I said that I went and voted. I exercised my right to vote. Yes, I'm aware that my ancestors fought for my right to vote. And I exercised those rights at the polls on Friday when I posted that video. Now, keep it a buck. The only reason why y'all feel a way about what I said is because of who I voted for. If I would have got on this internet, if I would have got on TikTok and said, oh, y'all, look, I just went ahead and voted. I got my voting sticker. I went ahead and voted for Kamala Harris. My D9 sis, I got to support her. We HBCU alums. Us girls got to stick together. If I would have got on the internet and said that, this wouldn't even be a discussion. It wouldn't even be a topic of discussion. Y'all are so stuck in y'all ways, especially y'all old heads. Y'all feel like, oh, she's a young girl. She's out of line. No, we don't think that way. That's against our founding. That's against this and that. When the core of our founding, who we were founded by, was based on conservative values. It's not anything that should be, it's not rocket science. It's literally what it was. Conservatives believe in a hand up and not a handout. All of our organizations.
Okay, you get it. You get the idea there. So here you got somebody, again, just simply she chose to vote differently. And you see how hard they're going after her. Again, this is the sisterhood. This is the Greek sisterhood. And so they're operating just like when you read, when you read in ancient Greek culture, what went on in these temples, they took extremely serious. And so likewise today, who do you see carrying these practices out? Who do you see carrying these extreme loyalties out? It's Black Greeks. And these are the same ones we see in the church, who the church is still practicing and continuing the traditions, of ancient Greece and ancient Rome. So this is what this video was about, was just, I wanted to do this again as an addendum to show you how important this is. And and so this answers the question. So anytime the question comes up, why do we have so many women in the church? Now you can share this video because we've given you the receipts and we've shown you this is why you do have so many women in the church, because it was designed for women in the church, for women to be in the church. It was never designed for straight males who have good character. It was never designed for that. So now you know, okay? So thank you so much for tuning in. We'll have more videos on this ongoing series that we have, so stay tuned. Really appreciate it. Get the word out about it. And thank you again, and I'll see you in the future. All right, take care now.